He keeps an eye on us.
We could use it. Use my powers. They'll let you see things the naked eye can't.
Ed speaking. Have you chanced upon any yokai? That sounds almost like a whimsical flight of fancy, as though I'm asking you whether you believe in magical fairies. Indeed, fairies and yokai share some commonalities. You see, unlike visitors, while yokai can be mischievous, they can also be rather helpful. Never judge a yokai by its cover. If you can get the little rascals on your side, they can make your life easier. Speaking of yokai, I recently read about a most unusual variety. It's called an Azuki Arai. All it does is wash beans in rivers. To what end, I do not know. There's also the Tofu Kozo, which goes around handing out, you guessed it, tofu. I imagine the poor sods must be out of a job in the e-commerce era. This has been Ed's Yokai Minute. I'm off to have myself a yokai croquette next door.
Good. Back to...
This morning, my daughter made hotcakes for me. She insists, however, on using the English term pancakes. Evidently, that terminology is becoming common in Japan as well. I asked one of my colleagues, but she had no idea. Perhaps I should have checked with someone else. At any rate, the pancakes were quite good. I did make the mistake of saying it was because of well-produced ingredients. This earned me a lengthy lecture on the importance of timing and heat. Cooking is just science in action, she said. I suppose a scientist like myself should take heed of that. Still, and indeed as a scientist, I was quite proud of her.
If you won't take me, I'll go myself. If you won't take me... You boys mind lending me a hand with something?
And here we go.
There's a place I need you to check out. It might not have anything to do with the current situation, but...
We haven't got time for this.
fair enough.
So, where is it then?
You're gonna help?
Kid's gonna make us either way. So out with it.
He's got good instincts. What do you need us to check out?
Thanks, I really appreciate it.
Something over there.
Rinko, I've reached the park as we'd planned, but Erica is nowhere to be seen. It's possible she may have gone somewhere else. I'll try my luck at another location. But, given the circumstances, I can't remain in Shibuya for long. I need you to understand, time is ticking. Even without Erica, I need to leave Shibuya. Previously, Erica had a particular question for me. She asked whether affinity is genetically inherited. I told her that my data doesn't support such a conclusion. Or rather, that I simply haven't enough data to reach one. She didn't appear to be very satisfied with my answer. I have to say, though, the fact that you didn't allow her to fight, that may have been the wrong decision. That's the only real conclusion I can come to under these circumstances.
Got a new place for you to check out.
Erika again?
Yeah, it's another meeting point we set up in case things went south. Even if she couldn't meet up with Ed, it's possible she could have ended up there.
Gotcha. We'll check it out.
Thanks. Head to the roof of 429 then.
Another search without much to show for it. Better report back to Rinko.
Erika wasn't here either. I hate to do this, but we're getting out of Shibuya while we can. Dale and I can't afford to die here. We must stick to the plan. You and Erika were like sisters, or even mother and daughter. A reclusive man like myself simply cannot fathom how one forms such a bond with a complete stranger. KK put it best. You cared too much about her. So much that you ended up denying the person she really is. Humans are troublesome. It's why I prefer talking into devices such as this one. Other people are simply too difficult to deal with. Regardless of relationship, that never changes.
I was surprised to find that my assistants seemed to accept my plan. Of course, I haven't informed them of my true objective. I want to bring back the dead. No one would take that seriously. To them, I'm just the same passionate scientist they've always known. I feel some guilt about it. But I'm not doing this for my wife alone. Far from it. Our physical bodies are like shackles on our lives. And I will liberate us from that imprisonment. I will save all humanity. I will be the salvation of every last transient soul. Curiously, I am regaining some function in my hands. Perhaps this too is a sign that I am casting off the chains of my earthly prison.
Ed speaking. Running into all those visitors got you under the cosh? Good news then. Soon there'll be even more of them. So I'd suggest you get used to it. Visitors are amalgamations of negativity. Negative emotions form a sort of corruption, if you will. Mix that with ether and out pops a shiny new visitor. Their forms seem to stem from the collective unconscious. Men in suits, school children, these are common sights in the modern age. In bygone ages, I'm certain they looked like samurai, ninja, even geisha. The name Visitor itself actually has a rather literal meaning behind it as well. They come from another plane of existence to, as the name suggests, pay a visit to our own. I wonder whether their plane was more comfortable than the one that brought Dale and myself here. Ed speaking. If you're hearing this, it could only mean that our operation has failed. If anyone is left alive, you must employ Plan B with all due haste. I'll explain the particulars. The first bit's the same as before. Find our target and dispose of him. But you also have a second equally essential task. You must collect the city's wandering spirits. Our target's plan calls for scores of them. If we're able to get to them first, that's as plan's rinsed. We'll be standing by on the outside, waiting for you to ferry any spirits you find out to us. On a related note, Dale just bought loads of crickets for some reason. He claims it's custom in Japan to eat them before a big typhoon hits. It's not exactly a typhoon we're dealing with, but I suppose it is a disaster of a sort. Speaking, I imagine you've gotten hold of some Maker by now. It's difficult to conclude whether Maker is entirely analogous to money in our world. Nonetheless, yokai do seem rather keen on it. Mortals can even use Maker to barter with them. One must wonder what use they have for it. Do they have need of an economy? I suppose, as the saying goes, money talks. Perhaps even in the underworld, or so it would appear. Speaking, I have a question for you, purely out of curiosity. How does spectral food taste? Does it have taste at all? My research has shown it to be merely a particular form of crystallized ether, one that can be consumed and, as you know, can potentially bestow a variety of effects. On top of that, it's quite portable, ideal for a picnic. The real puzzler is why it exists at all. Now, I can only speculate, but crystallized ether, is energy that exists as the inverse of matter in our realm. Thus, spectral food could be the inverse of the food we typically consume. Perhaps in the underworld there exists an inverse of those soba stands you're so fond of. Not that I blame you, soba's quite healthy. KK, like yourself, there are others out there who are highly resonant with crystallized ether. We in the field refer to this as having affinity. Those with affinity can absorb ether and wield it as an effective bludgeon against visitors. Now, as to how individuals like yourself do these things, I'm afraid I know considerably less. I'm still investigating. We are quite lucky that people like yourself allow us to fight back against those who would put their affinity to more nefarious uses. Returning to the matter at hand, I tested the blood sample you provided. Your blood shows abnormal AST, ALT, and GGT levels. I would advise cutting back on the smoking and drinking. Beyond that, nothing stood out. You could be healthier, but on the whole you appear an ordinary man, despite your affinity. Crystallized ether could be considered energy that stems from the underworld. Its manifestation, however, pertains to how that world connects to our own. When living creatures meet their end, a particular sort of energy is released. Their spirit begins a transition. Specifically, a journey from our world to the afterlife. When this occurs, crystallized ether is created. It could be a sort of byproduct of that transitive process. I imagine Shibuya must be rife with the stuff by now. Now, at present, the transition typically only happens in one direction. That is, from our mortal world to the underworld. However, if it is merely a matter of which way the energy flows, reversing it would be possible. Hypothetically. Yet the fact that our enemy is actually attempting this goes beyond the pale. But that is what he is. He cannot be reasoned with. Ed speaking. No matter where one is, they'll always find variegated ideas pertaining to psychological and religious impurity. Consider, for example, a house where an occupant dies being seen as unlucky. However, in Japan, the notion of corruption takes a peculiar form. Perhaps this is because it is in some way rooted in daily life, so ingrained that people hardly notice. And so it grows and festers unbeknownst to many. If he is truly attempting to connect Shibuya and the underworld, then all the corruption that has gone unnoticed will come bursting forth. This in turn will spawn huge numbers of visitors. In a way, you could say that it'll lift the veil on the real Tokyo.
Well, you know.
Ed speaking. Perhaps you're wondering what the story with this Dale fellow is? Thus far, I've been operating under the assumption that KK would be the one hearing these recordings. Only just now did I realize that that might not necessarily be the case. By this point, you can likely tell what sort of chap I am. On the other hand, I imagine you know little about Dale. How to describe him? He's big. He's got a beard. And that's it. My apologies, I thought I'd have more to say. But I honestly can't bring myself to care. It's all I can do not to fall asleep recording this. I'm sure you understand.
Starting today, I'm going to test out a dictation application programmed by one of my colleagues. I believe he meant it as an act of kindness, given the restricted movement of my hands. He never directly says such things, but he's certainly aware of the accident. In any case, I'm going to use this as a journal of my thoughts. This morning, my daughter asked if she could have a cat. I suspect she asked her mother as well. We'll have to discuss it when I get home. Taking care of a pet like that would be a good learning experience for her. The issue with pets, however, is that they typically die before their owners. I don't know that she fully understands that. I also worry whether she would take proper care of it. After some time, the responsibility might fall on myself. I'm in a terrible mood. I haven't slept in 2 days. My wife's condition is not good. They say that she could still wake up, as though that should be a comfort. At this point, she can neither speak nor move. Does death always arrive so suddenly? Death. I find the very concept of it difficult to accept. With the limited control left in my hands, I can somehow feel the caress of the Reaper. Today, I can only stare at the hotcakes my daughter has prepared for me. If my wife were here now, she'd be hurrying me along so we could get the dishes cleared. But she is not here. With every passing second, the hotcakes grow colder and colder, just like her soulless body. Absurd. Things cool off because heat transfers from one source to another. The energy itself doesn't just Yes, of course. Her soul hasn't turned into nothing. It has simply left her body. But where to? Where did it go? I can save her. I can do it.